Welcome back to the Stick 'em Up podcast. Brundi, it's been a little bit. I was sick there for a good almost week, and we took a bit of a break doing that, but we're back and we've got some news now. So we're
We
doing
do.
we're doing a bit of a more regular episode this week, or at least today, where we're we're just gonna cover a bunch of news around the league, and we'll be back with our off-season recap for the Montreal Canadiens and the Detroit Red Wings on the next episode. But for this one, we got a bit of news. Do you have anything you want to start with?
Yeah. You kind of broke it down perfectly. This just covering news. There's been some stuff going on. Some of these go back to almost 2 weeks ago at this point now, but um, we're covering them now. So better late than never.
It's the
was
off-season,
prop-
It didn't
yeah,
change. It didn't change the outcome of any games yet.
exactly. Do we want to just rip through some of the the quicker news, the ones that we can kind of just put out there, the ones that there's not much to talk about. The first ones being, as of today, Alex Goligoski and Mark Stahl. Both have announced their retirement from the NHL after 17 seasons each. Uh, Congrats to the two of them on great careers. And I don't know what Goligoski's doing now. I think he's kind of just retired for the time being, just doing his thing. But it sounds like Mark Stahl is going back to the Rangers in some kind of player development role. So
Interesting.
that's good for him. Still gets to be around the rink and help you know help some of their younger defensemen coming up, maybe. And for a guy
Yeah.
that in his prime played the way he did, he's got some good stuff that he'd be able to teach those young guys. The off ice stuff, I don't know if you want him teaching them, but you know what? Yeah, you got him there now, and
I didn't want to say it, your words, but
I already
yep.
threw it out there. No, Mark. It's not like Mark Stahl is a bad guy. I think more than anything, he's just kind of getting some backlash a little bit from his siblings a bit, but I still like it for the Rangers though. And again, I think he can provide lots of help to their young defensemen that they got coming up.
And boy, do they need it. They kind of seem like one of the worst teams in the league for developing young prospects. At least I guess the more notoriously the higher end prospects, the Capo Cacos, the Lafrenaires, the Elias Andersons of the world. But
Yeah,
that being said, those are all forwards. He's a defenseman.
their defensemen actually they develop not bad. I mean, you can't count Adam Fox because obviously,
Everyone knew what he was going to be.
but like
people knew he was going to be great.
you look at like a Keandre Miller, Ryan Lindgren. Like they can develop their defensive prospects pretty decently, I would say. But yeah, it's the forwards that they tend to struggle with. So maybe they should be addressing that.
Yeah.
Moving on over to Ottawa. This is kind of a fun one. A guy, I haven't heard this guy's name in so many years now, but 38-year-old Nikolai Kulemin is trying to come back to the NHL now, signing a PTO with the Ottawa Senators. Been over in the KHL for the last 6 seasons, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
Playing in the NHL in 2018 with the New York Islanders before leaving. So I'm curious to see how that pans out. I think he could be a good veteran addition to this young Ottawa team, and I'm curious to see how he looks in some games, because again, haven't seen him play in so many years. So I'm definitely going to be tuning in now to watch some Ottawa preseason games just to see what Nikolai Kulemin can do out there.
Yeah, Ottawa is one of those teams where maybe you could sneak in out somewhere near the bottom of the lineup, but 38 years old, not a lot of guys play that long, let alone guys who don't play at NHL level for 6 years. Like that's going to be a tough comeback, but you know what? I appreciate Ottawa giving them the try. Like, it's a tryout, right? There's absolutely no risk,
Yeah, and Ottawa clearly sees something to even agree to it. Like, they clearly see something. They're like, you know what, this could maybe work. And maybe it's even something is, even if it doesn't work out, maybe you find a way and you bring him in some kind of other role to help the team out or something. If he's willing to do that, or if it doesn't work, then he probably just goes back to the KHL and continues playing on over there. But like you said perfectly, there's no risk for Ottawa here.
Yeah, at the very least, it says to some of their fringe NHL guys and their young guys in Ottawa, hey, we're looking to get people in the lineup. So, you know, make sure you make the lineup. Like, don't dog it out there. Go out there and do your damnedest to secure your spot on the roster. Because if you're not trying your best out there, we're willing to bring a 38-year-old KHL player in to replace you if he's better. So it could even just light a fire under some of the other guys.
100%. Yeah. And in training camp and preseason, having some competition out there is never a bad thing, because it just brings out the best out of your players, and they're all given 110% to try and secure their spot. So I
Yeah,
like it.
yeah.
Do
I
you want to
mean,
cover
no risk.
the injury news, the little bits of injury news we got?
Yeah. So we've got two injuries to report here. One that we already talked about a bit. It was mostly rumored, and we weren't sure how bad it was. Unfortunately, it was confirmed. Torrey Krug is going to miss this entire regular season. It sounds like, with his ankle injury. I don't know if he's had surgery on it yet or if he's going to, but it sounds like they're pretty concrete in that he's going to miss the entire season. So that's really unfortunate. It would be interesting to know if the Blues were in a playoff spot, would he play in game one of the playoffs? Would he be even close, or is like his timeline to come back like August next year? But yeah, that really sucks for the Blues, and that sucks for him because that's a big piece they're missing there.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't got much more to add to that. I mean, really, we don't know that the exact, injury. We just kind of know the basis of it. So it's kind of hard to say, but all I can really say is just wish him a speedy recovery, and hopefully, it's not one that affects him after his recovery, and he's able to come back and keep doing his thing with the Blues, because
Yeah, hopefully it's a full recovery. Like
the Blues are
it,
better off with him on the ice than up in the press box or at home.
yeah, it always sucks seeing guys come back and they're like, I feel 100%, I'm back, and then you watch him play and it's like he doesn't skate the same
Yeah,
way anymore.
it's
Like
like, bro, are you
like it sucks. Like
yeah,
guys like Pacioretty, he's like, yep, we're back and we're ready, and then he doesn't look the same, and like also going
tears
down with
his
another injury, like
yeah.
just
Yeah.
constantly, like it sucks when that happens.
Yeah. Where's he at
Um,
now? What's Patches doing? Did he sign a PTO yet?
uh, he is listed as one of the top free agents on Puckpedia as of right now.
I feel like
So
he signed a PTO somewhere, didn't he?
that's
Or
kind
there
of
was rumors that he was
that's
going
kind of what I
to.
thought. Blake Wheeler's also on here. Has Blake
Oh
Wheeler
no,
been signed?
he hasn't. There's rumors that Toronto is interested in signing him.
Hmm.
So nobody's I think didn't Wheeler. Oh no, Wheeler's still a free agent.
Nope, nobody signed Mike Hoffman either.
Uh, yeah, I mean after last season, yeah, I didn't expect many teams to want to be lining up to sign him.
If you're willing to give a PTO to a 38-year-old KHL player,
Yeah, that is true.
kick some
It's a very
tires.
good point.
Uh, the other injury, this one is hot off the presses. This was announced about an hour ago. The Anaheim Ducks announced that Beckett Seneca fractured his foot in offseason training, and he's expected to be out 6 to 8 weeks. Uh, I have no idea if he would have been in the opening lineup. I assume at some point this year he would have played, his, what is it, 8 games or 7 games to not burn a year of his contract.
Yeah.
Or maybe in the Ducks situation, you might want to purposefully burn a year of that contract. I imagine he would have spent most of his time back in the OHL, but I assumed he would have played in a handful of NHL games, and he might at the end of the year still, but obviously it's not going to be to start the year at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, because I kind of was wondering if something was going on with Seneca because the NHLPA had their like rookie showcase the other day, and that's where a lot of guys took, kind of their first pictures for their first hockey cards and whatnot. And this was really weird though, because a lot of like sports news outlets, like there was a picture of all the guys on the ice, and it was like first look at all 32 NHL teams Fanatics uniforms, and it was like no, because there was no one representing Boston. Boston didn't have a rookie there. Calgary didn't. Um,
Really, and they got a
so
bunch of rookies to pick
with
from.
Calgary, I kind of gave a little bit of a pass to, because I kind of figured, okay, well, Zane
Mm,
Perrick should be there, but obviously, um, now after the fact, seeing that Perrick was at the candlelight vigil that was held in Calgary the other night, so I was like, okay, that kind of
yeah,
makes sense. And there was no representative for the New York Islanders, which I kind of thought, hey, Cole Eiserman probably uh, should be there. Um,
you know what? Lou Lamoriello's the GM. That doesn't surprise me in the least.
Matt Rempe was there though. You've got all these young superstar players in the league, and then you just got fucking big Matt Rempe in the back of the photo there. He looked like a fish out of water. And so I was like, why didn't uh Boston, like why wasn't Laturo there from Boston? Like he's that big massive guy. Like
Yeah,
do it, like you
yeah.
could have done a hockey card of him and Rempe, pretending to fight or something, because they're both monsters. Like, and that would have been a sick card. Um, But it was kind of cool to see the photos coming out of all of these young rookies that are kind of getting their first taste of being pros and dealing with a lot of cameras and spotlight and media now. So it's good little practice for them, I'd say.
Anything to get some of these guys to show a little more personality. Like they don't,
Yeah.
and I don't blame the players one bit. I really do think the league kind of beats it out of them to, now you're going to say pucks in deep. Now you're going to say play our game. Like, I think the league likes it, their guys predictable and marketable in a way that they know exactly what they're going to say, but fuck,
And
that's not near as fun, is it?
yeah, no. And one
Like
of
that's
the
why NBA players are so much easier to be like, this guy's awesome, because they're saying wacky shit all the time.
yeah. Two other funny things to note from the overall team photo of everyone. So I don't know for sure who it is, but I think it's Rutger McGorty, who's now part of the Pittsburgh Penguins. It looks like he was kind of a last minute ad, as it looks like his jersey doesn't have, you know, a nameplate or numbers on it. He's just wearing a basic uh, black and yellow Pittsburgh home jersey. And I can't make it out who the representative was there for the Colorado Avalanche, but he's got the home uniform on with their road like white helmet. So he kind of sticks out a bit. There's everybody's kind of got their team colored helmet, whether it's their team color, just a black helmet, and he's got the white bucket on, but hey, you know what? He's the guy that stands out a little bit there for it.
You know what? If he's rocking it,
Yeah, so uh, keep a lookout there, because soon a lot of these guys you're going to start being able to, uh, get their cards. If you're a fan of hockey and like collecting these cards and are always on the hunt for rookie cards, there's going to be a new line of ones coming out for a lot of these guys. So that's
yeah,
out there if you want that.
yeah. I know so many people who they don't really collect like just regular hockey cards. They go for the specific ones, right?
Yeah,
Like nobody cares about just getting a random hockey card, but like when Bedard first came in the league, I remember a bunch of my buddies were like, we all scouring everywhere trying to find like Bedard rookie cards because those are the big ones, right?
yeah,
So yeah, those guys coming to the league, you got 1 year to get a rookie card.
yep, yeah.
Um,
So moving on from that, we've only kind of got kind of some of the bigger news now that's gone on in the league.
yeah,
Um, and then we do have one kind of fun thing to do to wrap up here. Which one of these do you want to start with? I'll give you the
Uh,
pick.
the one we have listed at the bottom kind of feels like it's
Okay, yeah. Actually, I
a
don't
bit
even need to talk
separated.
about it. Just throw that out there, so it's out there.
Yeah, Tyson Berry signed a PTO
Hasn't
professional
signed. It
tryout.
sounds like he's expected to. It's not
No,
official.
he's expected to put together a PTO with the Calgary Flames. Um, I mean, yeah, like I'm
There's
surprised
no
nobody
risk.
else is willing to do it. Like Tyson Berry is not who he used to be or who people thought he was for a long time. He's still
Mhm.
NHL caliber, and
Yeah.
like even if you play him in very sheltered minutes with a solid defenseman, he can help you put up good offensive numbers from the blue line. Like it
Here's the
is
thing, though.
if he's willing to take low money because nobody else will sign him, that's a slam dunk for the Flames. Sign him for 1 year at a low cap hit, and you can ship him off at the deadline. If he signs for 1 mil for 1 year, you don't even need to
Yeah,
retain on that. That's nothing.
you could move
So
it.
yeah, if he even puts up 25 points on the blue line as a third defenseman, like 20 points, there's probably a fringe playoff team that'll give you a third, maybe fourth for it. Like, you know,
Yeah.
it's free. He's a free agent. It's free assets. There's not much of a risk with it when you're not up against the cap.
So I'm a liar because I said I wasn't gonna say anything on it, but you were kind of just talking about how he's not maybe as good as he used to be. I don't think I've ever seen a player in the league who has been more blessed than Tyson Berry throughout his journey. Right? Like you think about it, he was in Colorado, and so he got to quarterback the power play when McKinnon was coming in, Duchesne, Landeskog, and whatnot. He gets
Yeah,
moved. Where does he go? He goes to Toronto and gets to quarterback a power play with Tavares, Marner, Nylander, Matthews. He leaves Toronto. Where does he go? He goes to Edmonton and gets to quarterback a power play with McDavid, Draisaitl, like all those guys. And then he goes to Nashville and uh, you know, we kind of know what happened there, but it's like I
he
don't
gets
think
to
there's a
watch
guy who's
Roman
been
Yossi quarterback.
yeah, like I don't think there's a guy who was so gifted. Like he got to go from McKinnon to Matthews to McDavid. Like
Yeah,
that's
actually,
that's an absurd run. He probably was hoping Tampa would throw it an offer and he could go play with Kucherov, and then you kind of complete the you go full circle there. And because I think at least in my opinion, you're probably talking about the four best players in the league right there. Um, So maybe he was holding
yeah.
out for Tampa, but I guess he'll have to settle for Calgary and Huberdeau. But
He would have to sign like a two-way contract for that to work with Tampa. We do not got much room.
yeah, yeah, they got no room for him. But wishing Tyson Berry best of luck, and I think it could be fun watching him on Calgary. And I think looking at Calgary's defensive situation, if Zane Perrick doesn't make the team out of camp immediately, which I think in Calgary's case he shouldn't, like just let him go back and get another year of development in the
Yeah,
OHL. Try and go on another Memorial Cup run, and I think Tyson Berry could add a lot of veteran presence to what's starting to become a younger Flames team now. Is uh, a lot of the
Flames
older guys
fans
are getting
are
shipped out and
yeah,
younger coming in.
Flames fans are starting to get excited again, and I'm so glad to see it. Like,
They don't have much to be excited about at the moment, I
but
would say.
that's the thing. It's the prospect of it. Like,
Mhm.
it's a similar to spot to Sharks fans. You probably not going to be great this year, but in a few years, the pieces you already have, like, it's going to be dynamite. Like the Flames have been middling for so long, and then they looked like they were going to do something cool when their top line had all four or three of them had 40-goal seasons, and they were all like plus 30 or plus 40 or 50 or something insane. And
Yeah,
then all of a sudden the band broke up, and it's been a free fall since. But
yeah,
it's kind of been doom and gloom for the past few years. But now it's very clearly a rebuild, despite whatever the president or the
and
GM says.
it's the
Just because we
perfect
have to
time
trick the
too.
owner,
Like
it
if
is the
you're
perfect
if
time.
you're um a Flames fan, like as a fan of a team that's in the middle of a rebuild and has thankfully it's already kind of gotten through the hardest part it'll be. this is the perfect time, and you should be wanting, as much as it sucks and you may be attached to certain players, you want the Flames to start to blow it up and tear it down. Like, are the Flames going to be the worst team in the league next year, like this upcoming year, or like a bottom 3 team? Probably not, which is fine. So you get past this next year and whatnot, but then you look at the 2026 draft and the 2027 draft. You've got two what are looking so far. I mean, there's still a lot of time between now and then, but looking like some like generational, like franchise players you can get. Like maybe not on the level of like a Bedard or McDavid, but like
I
more
thought you were going to
hype
say
around
Bedard
them.
or Celebrini.
No, but like I think more hype around them than there was with Austin Matthews, with Celebrini, with Jack Hughes. Like you've got Gavin McKenna, who is Bedard's cousin, funny enough, and then
Yeah.
Defenseman Landon DuPont, who's going to get his first look in the WHL this year. So, like, if you've got 2 cracks 2 years in a row of potentially landing the number 1 overall pick and getting, whether you're getting a franchise like top line player or you're getting a franchise number 1 defenseman, like it's a good time. Like it may suck right now, but the
It's one of the best
possibility of
times.
landing, like, and you've got 2 cracks at it, right? Like
It's
even if
one
you
of
get
the
one
best
of them.
times in the entire time I've been paying attention to the NHL. Like seriously, like if they start going into they can be they're already planning for it. But this will be their first year fully in on being in a rebuild. They're not going to be, bottoming out yet, but they're moving towards it.
Yeah.
They have like no competition next season for going for those bottom, those top picks. Anaheim gonna get better. San Jose gonna get better. Chicago gonna get better. Columbus is gonna hope to get better. Like every team in the league that has been rebuilding is wanting to be ready to come out of it. Detroit, Ottawa, the Canadiens, like all these teams, Buffalo, like they're all trying to make the playoffs in the next 1 to 2 years. None of them are planning to be where Calgary is
And
on their timeline. The only
on
teams that could
Calgary's,
be are teams that sell everything to try and win the cup now.
well, and there's only
Like,
2 teams I can think of that realistically are in a spot where it's like they should be going into a rebuild, but because of their franchise players that they have, they're obviously not going to, and we're seeing that, and that's with Washington and Pittsburgh. Because I believe that both teams should start looking to go into a rebuild and start to tear it down and then build up this new next core. But when you've got Ovechkin again chasing Gretzky's record, and you've got Crosby who's committed to sticking with Pittsburgh and retiring there, you're not doing that. And so, like you said, these teams that are at the bottom that are climbing up, when Calgary, continues, I'm expecting them to continue to tear it down. They're going to be like in my opinion, as right now, the only, like the sole, like full on rebuilding team
yeah.
at that time. Like, is it going to be a rough couple of years for them? Probably. But when you look at the opportunities that are in front of them and players that they can get through the draft and whatnot, it's got to be at least exciting in some sense.
Yeah, like they're really not going to have any competition for those bottom spots, and obviously, it's a sport. One team wins, one team loses. So all these teams that I mentioned that are trying to move forward, they can't all make the playoffs. But I got to imagine the way they're trying to, a lot of them are going to pick up more wins than the Flames, and I think it's going to be a lock for the Flames to get finish in the bottom 3-ish, get a top 5 pick the next, maybe not this season, but in 2 seasons and in 3 seasons, those ones should be locked up.
I genuinely do believe, I think the Flames are going to land a first overall pick at some point in their rebuild.
I think it'd be really fun for them to get Gavin.
I think the way it's going, I think they're going to be in a spot where San Jose is going to be. I think, like we already know, this last year, Sharks are the worst team in the league. They got the first overall pick. There's a very good chance that San Jose, and despite the additions they've made and whatnot, could still very well be the bottom team in the league again. and have a second
Yeah.
crack at a first overall pick. I think that's where Calgary's going to be. I think they're going to have multiple,
Yeah.
good opportunities to get a first overall pick. And if you get one, you're already cruising and looking to have a great future. You get two, I mean,
Oof.
like right there, you've got
Like
you've
now
got
you're
a
looking
potential
at
dynasty if you do it right.
yeah, like, it might be a bit of a stretch to say, but like that's how you get your McDavid Draisaitl's. Like
Yep.
you need those two really high picks and you need to hit on them. And the
Yep.
first overall pick, doesn't always, but
Yeah.
Yakupov and the likes, but all more often than not it does. So that would be massive for them. And
Yeah.
oh man, that I'm just imagining this like triangle feud that is McDavid in Edmonton, who's starting to age out, versus the up and coming Gavin McKenna in Calgary, and then you've got Gavin McKenna's cousin, Connor Bedard, over in Chicago, and then of course you've got the whole Bedard versus McDavid thing, like that. Just that, like it's just a very exciting prospect right there.
Well, and to just go one step further, because the thing we talk about a lot with Canadian teams is like, you want to find guys that are going to want to play there and are going to want to, be there a long time. Like not guys that you're going to get a couple years and then they're going to want to dip and they're going to want to go to the States or to a big market. So the 2026 presumed first overall pick, Gavin McKenna, is from Whitehorse. So, I mean, Canadian boy, there's really, he can't play at home or anything. And he's currently playing for the Medicine Hat Tigers. So he's kind of used to the more southern Alberta area. So if he goes to Calgary, I think he would be happy about that and would want to stay there. And then you look at 2027, again, Landon DuPont, franchise defenseman. Where is he from? Do you know where he's from?
I don't. I'm gonna imagine somewhere in Alberta. It's pretty close.
Calgary, Alberta.
Oh, just straight up.
He's a
just straight up
Calgary
from
boy.
Calgary.
So if they get the opportunity and they land him, of course he's probably going to want to be a Flame for life. Like why wouldn't he? He gets to. I'm assuming probably grew up cheering for the Flames. All his family's in the area. Like it's shaping up to be like the perfect timeline for the Flames when you kind of look at everything that's lining up the way it is.
Yeah.
Nope, enough with that. Unless you have anything else.
I'm trying to find one more thing. I'm trying to find the year that Joe Iginla will be draft eligible. The youngest.
Is he
Iginla's son.
Is he 2025 or 2026?
It's one of those years. So one of these years we're talking about, even if they don't get that first overall pick, you could get a very high-end skilled guy that brings great vibes to the city of Calgary because he has Iginla on his jersey. That could be pretty sweet as well.
Yeah, like there's so many outcomes for Calgary, but I like the opportunity, a lot of the opportunities that are going to be available for them.
2026 NHL draft for Joe Iginla.
Oh, okay. Perfect. So again, if he's a top pick, even if Calgary doesn't get, the number one pick or something, if they've got a top pick, that's an option as well for him.
Yeah. So Tyson Barrie, maybe to the Flames could be neat. Yeah.
Yeah. This could be the start of building up a future dynasty in Calgary. Long story short. Moving on. Probably the one that has the least amount to talk about. Seth Jarvis finally signing an extension to stick around with the Carolina Hurricanes. I believe it is an 8-year deal. I'm just trying to get the whole
deal.
Yeah, like what it is. I know it's a great deal for kind of for both sides. 7.42 million per year over 8 years. Like I love that deal for Carolina mostly. Like you're locking up a 22-year-old to an 8-year deal who put up good defensive numbers, just dropped 33 goals, 34 assists, 67 points in his third year in the league. Like this is a guy that's just continuing to get better. He's a workhorse, a dog on a bone, like and just an overall loved guy by the fans and their teammates. Like everybody speaks so highly of him. Like to lock him up on for what he's doing, and I think what he's going to even continue to do as he gets better. Like it's a really, really good deal there for the Canes.
I'm confused why Seth Jarvis took this. I guess he just kind of caved.
Yeah.
Like and don't get me wrong, this is a ton of money. The entire contract valued at just $500,000 under 60 million in total. But he wanted out of Carolina. He wanted to go somewhere where he could be the guy. And
no, that was
oh no,
Natchez.
that was Natchez.
Yeah, that was Natchez.
Yeah. The more I was looking into it, I was like, wait a minute.
Okay. Yeah, that was Natchez. But point being though, yeah, like I think Jarvis probably could have got more, but I think he's also kind of like, you know what, I'm making a shit ton of money regardless. I'm still going to be able to sign another deal when this one's up, and
with a good team,
a little bit of a discount, yeah. And Carolina's obviously still going to be pushing for a cup for, I would say, at least the next probably 6 years. So dude's getting paid. He's going to get paid again later on, and he's got a good chance to win a cup throughout probably the entirety of this contract. So,
yeah, I was thinking of Natchez. Right, honestly, looking at his numbers, it's a fair deal. Like this past season, 33 goals, 67 points in total in 81 games. So, well under a point per game, but 33 goals is pretty solid. Like 7.4. I'd say that's fair. That's fair market value now. It's going to look better and better for the Hurt. It's going to look better as the years go on, as the cap assuming the cap keeps going up. It's only going to look better and better for the team though. So yeah, good deal for Carolina.
I think it's a good deal for both sides. Jarvis gets paid. He's going to get lots of opportunities to win a cup, and Carolina gives him a little bit more cap room, knowing that they didn't have to give out a lot more to keep Jarvis around when, again, I kind of thought it was going to be an 8x8, so still within that range. Last bit of news before the biggest one, the one that kind of shocked the world with this deal. The first one, Yaroslav Askarov. The sweepstakes are over. We knew he was getting traded out of Nashville. We didn't know where. And he went to the team that you mentioned it and said it was a possibility. I wrote this team off because I thought where the Predators are at right now and what they're trying to do, this team just does not have the assets to get it done. And that was the San Jose Sharks acquiring Askarov along with forward prospect Nolan Burke and a 2025 third-round pick in exchange for first-round pick in the 2025 draft, that being Vegas's first-round pick, goaltending prospect Magnus Krona, as well as forward prospect David Edstrom. What are your thoughts on this deal?
So obviously, David Edstrom, they got in the Hurdle deal, the 2025 first from Vegas. They got in that. So, losing Hurdle sucks, but you got out from what could have been a rough contract near the end.
It was going to be. And I like Hurdle, but it was going to be.
And on top of that, you turned that into a third-round pick and Askarov.
Yeah.
I didn't love the Hurdle deal when it happened, but if you're just looking at, like, there's a couple borderline pieces. The Magnus Krona, Nolan Burke are kind of around on the perimeter, but it is
mostly AHL pieces.
Yeah, it's for the most part. Hurdle went one way, and then you got back Askarov for those assets.
Which is
And
basically what it was. That's
that's
kind of how I saw it.
and that's pretty nice for San Jose. Like
Yeah.
he looks like he's going to be a real good goaltender. He's young. Like he is ready to come into the NHL this year, which is the same year that Celebrini, that Will Smith are all hoping to make that leap. And it's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun team to watch this year. A lot of people still think San Jose is going to be bottoming out, and I don't doubt that, but I don't think it's going to be as black and white as it was last year.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. So it is worth noting that the first round pick San Jose sending to Nashville, it is Vegas's first round pick, although it is top 10 protected. So if for, whatever reason Vegas finishes, you know, say 11th last or 12th last and they jump up and win the draft lottery or something, then San Jose has the option to keep that pick and send theirs. I don't see a world in which San Jose ends up sending their own first round pick to Nashville when it's all said and done. But the conditions are there just in case, because, for whatever reason, if Vegas somehow wins the lottery and gets the first overall pick, you don't want to be sitting there being like, fuck, we just traded a first. Like it would look awful.
Be a lot better
also
than if
worth
Vegas
noting,
had their pick.
Yeah. Also worth knowing, David Edstrom I think he's a solid NHL prospect. He was drafted 32nd overall in the 2023 NHL draft. I think he's going to be a good prospect, but again, you look at where San Jose's at now, you've already kind of got your centers of the future. Like you obviously got Celebrini and Will Smith, and you've got Philip Beested, who has now just, end of last season, he made the jump over to North America finally. He got some AHL games in. He looked good. And, he's kind of projected to be their third line center of the future. So there was no room for David Edstrom, right? So, like, a good prospect, but you had no room for him at this point. And, like, to be a fourth line center, he's going to be better than a fourth line center. And you can easily go out and get a fourth line center somewhere else. So, for the Sharks, I like this because you're looking at the pieces they've added through the rebuild. What was always the glaring hole with this team, and it's been this way for years since Martin Jones just forgot how to play goalie for a couple years. They've been looking for a goalie of the future, and like I can't even think of a time when a goaltending prospect of this magnitude, like this good and this young, was not only available for trade, but actually traded.
Yeah.
And so these opportunities don't come around once, and like you're the Sharks, you got to jump on that because that's a piece you're missing. And they did sign Askarov immediately to a 2-year, $2 million AAV extension.
Which
Askarov
will kick in next year because it's an extension, right?
Yeah. And Askarov has stated that, he's talked with the Sharks and he's okay with going to the AHL if need be. So I think a lot of people kind of got it confused. It's not that, Askarov is like, oh, I'm above playing in the AHL. I'm good enough to be in the NHL. No, he just didn't want to report to the AHL with Nashville because he kind of saw the writing on the wall and was like, there's nowhere for him to go. Like
As soon as
Saros
they
was locked in on
extended
that.
Saros,
Exactly.
That's it, right?
So Askarov is fine going to play in the AHL with the Barracuda because he knows that he's got a great chance to be an NHL starter for a long time, and the door's wide open for him. And he could very, very well go into training camp in preseason and win the starting job or win the backup job. Like
I mean, who is San Jose's goalies right now? Like
they've Mackenzie Blackwood and Vitek Vanacek. So
they still have. I didn't know they still had Blackwood, and I guess, and they have Vanacek. They're just rolling the Devils goaltending lineup, huh?
Yeah, exactly right. So
both with 1 year
I
left,
love this.
So.
I love this deal for the Sharks. I also really do love it for Nashville. I mean, kind of another one of one of those things where it's like they were kind of almost handcuffed. It was like everybody knew. Like Barry Trotz tried to go about this quietly, and unfortunately, that just wasn't the case. Everything kind of came out, and his back was kind of up against the wall, and he made a great deal. And the even better part is, um, we talked about Nashville, and at least I did. I don't know if you did, but we kind of thought they were looking for like NHL pieces more to add to their team,
Yeah,
like right now.
yeah. They out of nowhere they decided Barry Trotz is swinging his big old dick around, and they're looking for a cup all of a sudden. They looked like they were going to go into a rebuild a year ago today,
Yeah.
and they decided to be great last year, and then they bought the shit out of July 1st, and now uh, to say they're a cup favorite might be a bit much, but a cup contender I think is very solid for them, and yeah, I think they're looking. That's honestly one thing that is a little rough about the trade, just because David Edstrom has now been a part of 3 NHL organizations. He got drafted
Yeah.
by Vegas, traded to San Jose. Now he's been traded to Nashville. Dude's 19 years old, and before he plays in his first NHL game, he might be traded again.
Well, and that's what I was gonna say, right?
Because
That's
I
why
don't
I'm
think they
looking
have
at
a
it
use for
now.
him right now, and they want to win in the next 4 years while they still have Yossi in his prime, and you know,
Forsberg and
yeah, Stamkos is going to be falling off, and like they've got a couple of older guys there, Marchessault as well. Like
yeah,
they're going to want to win in the next 2 or 3 years before having to at least do some sort of retool. So
and that's the
I
thing,
could
right?
very
Is so
reasonably see him getting moved again.
not only that, like they didn't get the NHL pieces, but now their their war chest is that much bigger going into the season and up to the trade deadline, right? Like you add David Edstrom, who I think he's got the chance. He's probably going to be like a middle six
Yeah,
center, whether that's second or third line, uh, remains to be seen. But like, so you've got him, and he's going to have some value if you're trying to buy and add at the trade deadline. And they've got 3 first-round picks. Like they have their own, they have Tampa's, and now they have Vegas's. Like you know, you have lots of resources that you can now use to improve your team at the deadline when you kind of see where your team's at, rather than going and adding pieces A and B or whatever to your team to start the season. You can roll in with what's already a good team, and then when the time needs and you have needs you need to address or you have weaknesses, you can go out and add through there and fix it then when you can see the problem. So, for this deal, I would probably give the Sharks an A. I don't love, that they gave up a first round pick, but like you are getting a goalie that can be a superstar in this league, and so you have to do it. And for Nashville, I'd probably give him a B plus. I think you maybe could have probably squeezed out a better prospect than David Edstrom,
yeah.
but to still get a B level prospect and a first round pick for, again, when your back was
When
kind of up against the wall,
you're
like
handcuffed like that, yeah,
that's tidy work. Um, so
yeah. Since a minute ago when you said that they could easily flip Edstrom at the deadline for a guy that could help them win in the playoffs now, I literally just went to the first team in my head that I thought maybe they could buy from. I just randomly picked the Penguins. I look at their lineup. Lars Eller has 1 year left on his deal at 2.4 mil. Last year he had 31 points and 15 goals in all 82 games. That looks like a good depth piece.
good defensive numbers as
Like,
well. I'm pretty sure
like
he had.
it's not. Yeah, on a not fantastic Pittsburgh team, he was only -1. So I mean, I imagine there weren't a ton of guys who were positive on that team. Like,
Mhm.
there's that was my very fast just Google search. Like, there's got to be a couple of guys that they would be more than willing to give him up for, just to grab a guy and go in the playoffs, get that extra depth, and
Yeah,
yeah, I think he
and
probably
and
gets moved again.
when the trade happened, I sent you a thing. Like there's potential that like the Sharks could set the league on fire in a game if Jake Wallman walks in and rips a goal in to win the shootout or an overtime. He hits the gritty on one end, and on the other end, you got Askarov laying on the ice doing push-ups with the net at the same time. Like that could be like one of the coolest moments um, in NHL history if that ends up happening. But
Yeah, Wallman goes in, takes a slap shot on the empty net, and then Askarov skates down and starts bench pressing the other team's empty net after they
Yeah.
score.
The last thing I'll say on this before we move on, um,
I hope we see that happen again. I want to see somebody
yeah.
rip it on the empty net. God, I thought that was funny.
Yeah, right.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, all good. The last thing I'll say on this is, in the entirety that from the time we started this podcast till now, like the Sharks they've been in this rebuild, and the rebuild only started once kind of Mike Greer came in and took over, which I think he's done a fantastic job with it. I still firmly believe at some point he is going to win the GM of the Year award at some point in time. But this was his first time kind of being a buyer, right? Like every trade he's kind of made along the way, it's been selling. You sell off Brent Burns, Eric Carlson, Thomas Hurdle, and a couple other pieces. Like this was the first time that he's given up actual good assets as part of rebuild to go out and get something better to improve the team. Like you are still getting a prospect, but in this case, San Jose was the buyer, Nashville was the seller. And so kind of in Mike Greer's first go of being a buyer, I got to give him credit. I think it's a great move. He made quick work of going out and just getting the deal done and not giving other teams the chance. So I got to tip my hat to him as well, because again, it's his first go of being a GM in the league, his first time kind of being a buyer in a trade, and to pull one off like this, I think is very nice. Nice work by him.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like he knocked out of the park with this one. Like, I mean, it's no Jake Wallman deal, but also that was just Yzerman calling him up and saying, sign here to have it for free.
That's kind of why I didn't count that one, because it was like, it sounds like it was Detroit that kind of came and said,
it sounds like Yzerman just called him, and it literally sounds like Mike was the first person he called, and no matter who he called was taking that deal, obviously.
Yeah.
So that was a no-brainer, but yeah, tidy piece of work by Big Money Mike.
As a Sharks fan, I will say it's going to be kind of weird, watching and having a goalie, because again, for those who don't know, Askarov is a right-handed catching goalie. So, he catches with his right hand, shoots right-handed, and blocker really on the left. Rare. So it's very rare. So it's going to kind of be fun to watch that, because it's, it's not something you see a whole lot, really as much anymore in the league. Like, there has been guys in the past, but to have a guy that, again, remains to be seen full time at the NHL level, but a guy that could potentially be a superstar in this league, being a right-handed catching goalie, could be a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, actually. And I do wonder if it'll be weird for other guys to shoot on him. So many guys, they get really used to ripping it on that low blocker side, and all of a sudden now he's gloving that every time. Like, I do wonder if he'll put up better numbers against like some power plays and then worse numbers against other ones. Like it would be a very interesting breakdown, because I don't remember the last time we saw a high profile goalie who catches on the opposite side like that.
The thing I'm most curious to see about with Askarov is probably when they go up against Edmonton, and because Edmonton's power play is, I mean, obviously Hyman gets a bunch just eating pucks in front of the net and bouncing off them, but the Draisaitl one-timer, right? Like every time Draisaitl's doing it, the goalie's got his glove over there. With Askarov, and again, athleticism off the charts, but it's it's going to be on his blocker side now. So I'm kind of curious to see actually if that helps, or if it maybe hurts him a bit because his glove's not on that side. Like,
I feel like it's going to be easier to use your glove.
I assume saves. So. Like, I never played goalie. You have, so I'm more than me.
It always I would assume more consistent to catch it than to try and
throw your blocker out.
Yeah. Like, and there's a lot of dangerous guys who are on that far side on a lot of power plays. Draisaitl, Kucherov, both on that far side. I don't think Pasternak would be, but like, actually, I think Matthews might even be on that side.
Yeah, Matthews is too. Yeah.
So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he does against some of the high-profile power plays like that. Speaking of Edmonton, though.
Yeah. You want to break down this last one for us here?
Yeah, we finally got the Leon Draisaitl contract extension. They have done it 8-year extension, so they've got him for the next 9 years at a cap hit of $14 million. That's a lot of money.
So, before we break down the deal, I just wanted to put out there because I think it's very classy of both Draisaitl and Edmonton. Um, so the deal was agreed to last week, late last week, but the deal wasn't announced until I think it was like Monday or something. Just out of respect from Edmonton, due to you know the the unfortunate news with Johnny and Matthew Gaudreau, and
Yeah,
so Edmonton wanted to kind of respect that and not drop this big news during that
that's
time. They
good.
wanted to wait a bit and then put out. So I do respect the Oilers and Draisaitl for doing that. I thought that was very classy.
That's good because there was no
Yeah,
news coming out about anything hockey for the next 3 days.
not
So
there was one. The day the news broke, there was one piece that came out. There was one sole piece of news, and it comes from arguably the biggest piece of shit in the league, and that was Nick Cousins signing with the Ottawa Senators. That was the
oh,
only piece of news that came out in
of
within
course,
like that 3 day span.
there
Um,
was just a quick anecdote on that. And we might actually, I wanted to ask you, we might actually do an episode on this in the future. There was a Reddit post recently on r/hockey that was just like, what are some of your opinions on your rival team's players? And whoever made the list was like talking about the Senators, and he had all these tiers for their entire team. And I didn't do the whole teams, but I just for shits and giggles, I did a couple of the players from both the Bruins and the Panthers. And I had I like Swayman, I like Pasternak, and then there's some of the guys they get lower and lower, and then in the bottom tier I have Brad Marchand, I have
I love
Matthew
Marshy.
Tkachuk, and then below the this guy sucks tier, I just had Nick Cousins in
Yeah,
his
I mean
own
you
tier
got to. Yeah,
because he's just a piece of shit.
he's on an island of his own. Yeah,
Yeah.
I can fully get on that train there.
So yeah,
Um,
maybe we'll get it. We'll see what yours looks like for some of your rival teams at some point in the future here. That might be a fun tweet or episode or something.
I think my brain would be fried with like my eyes would be ruined by how many times I'm looking down as I'm dragging a bunch of guys down to the very bottom of the barrel there. But going back to Edmonton, I mean, you knew Draisaitl was going to get paid,
Yeah.
right? Like you knew he was going to get a bunch of money. You knew he was going to be the highest paid guy with this deal. Like it's just the way that the league is going, especially with the cap going up. Guys signing contracts at different times. Like you knew Draisaitl was going to be the highest paid guy. It just came down to how much. And now you got to look at from here on out. Now, how does this affect Edmonton? How does this deal affect what Bouchard's going to do, and he has to sign his deal within the next year, and then the following year, McDavid. Now, what's McDavid going to get? Because it's obviously going to be more than 14, and
Yeah.
it's a big drop. It's a big jump. Like I know it's like the cap's going up and whatnot, but it's also like okay, but Draisaitl is going from 8.5 up to 14. Like that's 5.5 increase right there. Like that's the cap going up. That's all of it right there.
Yeah.
And so you can look at it that way, or you can look at the other way. Um, but at the end of the day, like Edmonton had to sign him,
It's
right? Like
yeah.
it's
There's two
you had
ways
to
to
get a
look at
deal
it,
done.
and both of the ways to look at it, both are correct. Like they're both real. There's the side of Leon Draisaitl is right there beside like he's below McDavid, but he's right there with guys like Kucherov and McKinnon as the best
Yeah,
playoff performers of the last decade.
yeah.
Uh, dude is an absolute machine, especially in the playoffs, and he's worth every penny. At the same
It's
time, uh, McDavid will be only getting a raise in 2 years, and then you'll have two guys making more than 28 million combined, plus Darnell Nurse money, whatever Bouchard makes. You
Yeah.
might see a bit of a Toronto Maple Leaf situation. I know people are
Yes.
saying it, and I know a lot of people don't like the comparison because
But it's
obviously
there.
these guys were literally 2 goals away. They were 2 goals from winning the cup. They
Yeah.
lost in game 7, 2-1. If it was
Yeah.
3-2, they win. So
Yeah.
it's easier to feel more confident about them. At the same time, that's a lot of money.
So here's the thing. It's a lot of money, but one of the first things I actually thought of when I saw this deal, it reminded me of it's a really old one, but it's the one meme where it's basically like I don't look at gas prices at all because what am I going to do? Not get gas? It's like you're Edmonton. It's like
Yeah.
you're gonna have to pay Draisaitl. It's like, what are you gonna do? Not pay him and lose him? Like, no, you're signing him for
No.
what he's willing to take. Which
No.
again, do I love it being 14? No, not really. I would have liked if they could have maybe got him around in, again, that 12 and a half to 13. But again, it's just that
Yeah.
wasn't an option. Like
No.
Draisaitl taking 14 kind of feels like he took a discount almost.
I've seen people in Edmonton saying that, and I think that's just wrong, flat out. This is the highest. He's more than $1 million higher than the second highest paid guy in the league now.
Yeah.
The only person who you could even make an argument for that being underpaid would be if McDavid signed it, in my opinion.
No, but I'm looking at the aspect of like if Draisaitl went to free agency. I think he would have gotten more.
He would have got more. It's one of those things where, obviously it is the right thing. It is the right thing to sign him. Regardless, if you had to sign him at 15 and a half, even 16 mil, it's the right thing to sign that. It's the right thing to sign that. You don't love that contract, but it's the right thing to do. You don't want, you're going to lose the trade if you trade him. And you
can't lose him for nothing to free agency.
If he goes to free agency, then fold the fucking franchise. So
yeah, like McDavid's walking then as well.
Yeah, so you have to sign him regardless. But now that it is signed, we have to look at the salary structure, and figure out how that works.
It's not
I don't
great.
love it, but at the same time, the next 2 years, until McDavid gets his new contract, combined, they're making $26.5 million of the salary cap. The salary cap this upcoming season is $88 million. Let's do a little bit of napkin math. That's what, a quarter ish? A little bit more, between a quarter and a third, somewhere in there. And how much of the production do they factor in on?
A lot.
McDavid and Leon Draisaitl.
Yeah,
a lot. Probably pretty freaking close. Probably more than half. Like,
yeah,
if you take away all the points that they both got last season, they probably lose 50% or more of their goals.
Yeah.
When you look at it that way, they're worth what they're worth.
Here's the thing, right?
There's so many ways you can look at it for it to be good or bad. It breaks my brain trying to break it down too much.
And so if you're an Edmonton fan, maybe don't listen to this because it's probably not something that's going to make you feel good. But so Draisaitl 14, McDavid, what, 15 and a half, 16? Like, what are we thinking? Just what do you think he's going to get? Just for argument's sake here.
What do I think he's going to get?
Like 15 and a half?
I think McDavid has made a lot of money already, and I think he wants to win. So I think McDavid is going to take 14,250 or 14,500. I think he's going to take more than Draisaitl.
I'll go 14,250.
I think he's the man. He makes the most, but I think he doesn't go too much higher because he does want the team to win on top of getting his money, and if he does that, they probably can.
Okay, so Draisaitl at 14, McDavid at the 14.25. You take Darnell Nurse's just gross contract, and then Evan Bouchard still got 1 year left, but he's going to get an extension. If he does better than he did last year, I'm going on the lower end. He could very get more. I'm going 10.
10 mil is the number that I've seen thrown around as much. It depends
So
when it's signed. They could
yeah.
sign him to 8x10 right now. If he has another year like last year, now it's getting
So
tough to tell him no
we'll
to
go 10.
11.
We'll go 10 just for the low end sake,
Yeah.
just to show that like this is probably the low end of it, and it could only get worse. Those 4 contracts, 47.5 million. That's half of your salary cap if the salary cap goes up to 95. Like, you know, in a situation with Toronto, I'm like, okay, that's one thing. But when you go to Edmonton and it's like basically half your cap for 4 players, and one of those 4 players is Darnell Nurse, like
Yeah.
it's tough. And that's why I've been on, you know, from the start of last season till now, like it's like Edmonton had last year to win a cup, which they almost did, and this year to win a cup, because I'm having a hard time now with looking at these contracts and seeing where their cap situation is going, and seeing, especially now, like, you know, you traded your first round pick at the trade deadline for Adam Henrique last year. So you're coming in the draft without a first round pick. You trade your first round pick from either the 2025 draft or 2026 to move up to the very end of the first round to in my opinion take a reach on a guy. So now you're sitting there and within the next 2 years you've
they
got,
like the guy.
well, they do, but I'm looking at it like, so now you're either missing a first round pick next year or the year after. 2 of your up and coming young players that I think could still be very good, you lose in Philip Broberg and Dylan Holloway. So you don't have that much in terms of top end draft picks or top end prospects coming up. You've kind of got what you have now.
Yeah.
And your cap situation, like this, Edmonton needs to win a cup this year. Like they need to just give up your other first round pick.
They are the team that needs
whatever you need
to win the cup
to
the
win
most this year. I think they are under the most pressure. Yeah, honestly, the more I'm staring at their Puckpedia screen, there's a big red 0 next to their first rounder for 2025. Why is there a 1 on 2026? Why is there a 1 on 2027? After the trade deadline, they should have no first round picks available.
Yeah. Like
you who cares? Okay? You don't need to. What are you going to do with Mr. 30th overall, Mr. 26th overall?
Yeah.
How about you win Connor McDavid a Stanley Cup?
So I'm going to ask you this.
Again, 2 goals away. They were right there.
Yeah.
2 first round picks is more than enough to bring in an awesome player, or 2 first rounders. You might be able to pay somebody to take a Darnell Nurse. And guess what?
Yeah.
Now you got just north of $9 million in cap space to do whatever you want with.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you this. If Edmonton doesn't win the cup this upcoming year, like if they fall short, do you think they win a cup with McDavid and Draisaitl? And probably Bouchard, assuming they lock him up to an 8-year deal.
Yeah, and I think they are going to.
I don't know if they don't win this year. I don't know if they do.
I'm saying I think they are. Sorry, I was talking about re-signing Bouchard. I think they are definitely going to extend Bouchard. I think they're going to do everything they can to get him for 8 years.
Yeah.
Winning that cup,
I don't know if they do.
It makes it
I
tough.
really don't know. Like I think this is the year you have to win it.
I think the West is a little bit weaker. Some of those top teams are real good though. I can't say no. I think they probably still do. Connor McDavid's so fucking good, man. Like I cannot count that guy out.
He is, but again, it's like,
and that's a
again,
lot
how
of money in those top guys. But at the same time,
like,
Ryan Nugent-Hopkins for quite a few more years at 5.1. Zach Hyman 5.5, putting in what did he get? 57 goals or something.
Yeah,
stupid.
I don't think Hyman hits 50 again though. I think he's probably gonna still be a continual 40 goal scorer for the next couple years, but I'm not sure if he cracks the 50.
I mean,
the potential is there. I don't see it. And I very well could be wrong, and I'd be okay with it. But like, again, it's just like, man, like with the Draisaitl deal, what McDavid's gonna end up getting, what we're assuming Bouchard's probably gonna get. Like, I think you got to bite the bullet and just sign Bouchard now.
I think so too.
Having an even better year next year, right? Because I think Edmonton's going to be even better with the additions they've made. it's like I think you just got to lock him up
Yeah.
and not risk him dropping 90 points or something,
Yeah.
and then maybe even winning a Norris, and then it's like, you're at that now, what, like 11 and a half? Like,
Yeah. Like, actually, I think you just got to lock him up now. And as the cap
yeah.
goes up, it gets a little easier, And yeah, I think a lot of people, I think you are in the very much majority of people who think Hyman's going to regress next year. And I
I don't
want
think
to, but
regress because, like, let's not act like, when we're talking about Zach Hyman, we can't just be like, oh yeah, we're expecting him to drop 50 a year now, right? Like, I think he had one of those years where he really popped off and a lot of things went right. But I think even still, like, being like he's going to be like, I still think he's going to be a 40 to 49 goal guy, and that's
I
great
think
for him.
50,
That's
I
great
think 50 is
value.
easy for him next year. Like,
I don't know, because there's so many more mouths to feed now, right? Like, you're bringing in, I don't know about Evander Kane, but like, you're bringing in Jeff Skinner. You got to imagine he's probably tucking 30. You're bringing in Arvidsson. You got to imagine he's
that's
probably tucking
that's
15 to
video game
20. Like,
logic. You because the
look what
third
Jeff
line
Skinner did on Buffalo with a
the
bunch of bums. You put him with McDavid, he's easily putting
yeah,
30
but you're
home.
not that doesn't take away Zach Hyman's goals.
Power play
Like,
goals and whatnot, it sure as hell does. You can't expect him to be like Edmonton. I don't know Edmonton
oh,
after
you
goals,
can't
but
tell
to
me
be
they're
like,
changing the power play now. Power play
what
unit 1?
if you try Jeff Skinner out there and he's ripping one timers and
You don't even
and you
try him. Don't even try him.
but you have to. But like,
Yeah.
you can't tell me, I
Wrong.
don't know how many
Wrong.
goals Edmonton had.
Zach
But like, you
Hyman
can't be
scored
like,
54 goals last year. He had the 17th. He is in 17th all time in goals in a single playoff run. He had 16 goals in the playoffs last year. The most ever is 19. He was
okay,
3 away from the all-time record.
so don't even put Skinner on the power play then. But I'm just looking at it like, I don't know how many goals Edmonton had, but say they had 300, just for argument's sake.
Sure.
It's so illogical to be like, okay, they had 300, but now with these additions, you know, their goal total is going to go up to 360, 370, because nobody's going to lose goals. Everybody's going to stay where they're at. But these other guys are going to come in and they're going to put up what they normally do. Like, Zach Hyman's going to stay where he is. Draisaitl, McDavid,
I
Nuge.
think
But then
those
Skinner
only
comes
take
in and does
away
it. Arvidsson does. Like,
those only
some
take
guys'
away from
totals are
guys
going to go
down.
down.
It only takes away from guys beneath you when I think of it. Like, if he comes in and plays on the second line, that has no effect on McDavid and whoever the hell's on his wing or
Well,
the top power play unless he
I think
gets
you
up there.
put him with
But
McDavid, though.
if you put him on this, just like for argument's sake, if you put him on the second line, whoever was on that second line is now losing goals because they're either going down. They like somebody's got to go down the lineup. So now they're getting less ice time. They're not playing with as good of people. They're taken away from that guy's cookies. But
So, no, because assuming Kane's probably not playing for a bit. He was in the top 6, and Dylan Holloway he's gone. So that's kind of where I'm like,
yeah,
Skinner and Arvidsson come in to
yeah. So
fill
you're
those
taking
spots.
the goals from those guys,
But
which
what did Kane
they
put
don't
up?
need.
20 goals? Or Holloway, I don't know what Holloway did, but I don't think it was very great in the regular season.
Yeah, not
But it's
sure.
like, it's I feel like it's got to take away some goals from a couple of guys. Right? Like, I
But
don't
I
think
think
it's
it's all guys. I think it's all guys that are lower than him on the depth chart.
Holloway had 6. That was actually a lot lower than I thought he had.
Yeah, actually, wow.
Okay,
Especially
Kane had
since he had
24.
yeah. Well, so 30 right there.
But like, I feel like I think if you're Edmonton, I think you're making a huge mistake if you don't even try Skinner with McDavid, because I think in terms of speed, I think Skinner's the only one that can somewhat. I mean, nobody can obviously keep up with McDavid, but I think Skinner and his speed is the closest you're going to get to a guy that, um, it's the same way when we talked about the Islanders, right? It's like, I think you have to at least start out and try with Duclair and Barzell, because Duclair's like the only guy that can match or be on somewhat on the same level as Barzell's speed. And Jeff Skinner is a goal scorer. Like I still think Hyman's going to get
But
a
I don't.
lot, but
But I don't think McDavid needs speed with him. He needs a guy who can stick on the ice every time, and when he touches it, it goes in.
how many times have you seen McDavid get a rush and then he gets
Okay,
up there and he has
hold
to
on.
kind of curl back and drag a bit and wait?
They're both
Like if you've got Skinner
wingers.
flying in, yeah.
Why don't they both go on the top line? Who's taking the other spot?
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. Like they're both gonna be on the top line, but it's gonna be like,
Okay. I
instead
thought I
of
was having a brain fart and not thinking
no,
of
no,
somebody.
no. But like, it was different when it was like because I think McDavid was with Nuge and Hyman for the most part. So Hyman's with two guys
Nugent Hopkins, that's who else is up there.
who love to dish the puck.
Yeah.
But now when you've got Skinner, Skinner's more of a shoot first guy. And so it's like, yeah, Hyman in front of that, like probably still going to get some deflections and whatnot. But if Skinner's ripping some, like he's going to be more often than not probably trying to, rip it home and not put it off and try and like bank it off Hyman or give him a pass on the ice where he can tap it in back door. So it's kind of where I'm looking at it from.
I kind of think a guy with speed is the perfect guy to put with Draisaitl on the second line because,
that's where I think Arvidsson
Draisaitl's great at all parts of
crash and bash.
his line, but
you give Draisaitl another crash and bash buddy. Exactly, which is why I think you put him in, like, because Draisaitl's again kind of another beast in the corners and fighting for pucks. I think you give him an Arvidsson who's loves to mix it up. You just let those guys go in there and just create chaos together. But there's numerous ways Edmonton could do it. But again, I'm not going to be talking about Zach Hyman, be like, yeah, he's a 50 goal a year guy for sure. Like I think again, it's not like he's regressing. I think he's right in that range of a 41 to 49, probably more on the higher end, like a 46 to 49 goal guy. But
yeah, I think he's going to end up with about 50 for the next few years. Obviously, because he is playing with McDavid. I don't think on other teams he would be, but at the same time, deflecting pucks, being available, always being ready for a pass is a skill in its own. So,
yeah, 100% it is. Like
there's a reason other guys aren't putting up 50 goals just by being with McDavid.
Yeah, 100% exactly, right?
I mean, some guys are, but
like how many people have they tried putting with McDavid and a lot of them failed. Like, but Hyman, he can make it work because that's his play style. Like he doesn't need to be the guy driving the play. He just needs to be the guy fighting in front of the net, winning battles, tipping pucks home, like rebounds. Like that's his game, and he excels at it. So I won't knock Zach Hyman as a player and be like, oh, he's not good or anything. I just think, I think last year was a wild year where a lot of things were going right, and I kind of think, he's still going to be a great player. Just I'm not going in with the expectation of him being
on a lot of teams. Yeah. I would agree. Like, we'll see these random guys just absolutely pop off. Jason Robertson was like 2 years ago, absolutely popped off for like 100 and change points. And like, I think he's really good. He could hit 100 again, but I think that might end up being his career high. But like, at 90 points every year is nothing to sneeze at, especially when you're good defensively. But
yeah,
when he's surrounded by a guy the caliber of McDavid, the same, I would have said the same if we were having this conversation about Jake Gensel with Crosby. Like, other guys, I would say, yeah, they'll probably go back down, but these generational talents, they might just do it for another 5 years because they got the stuff. They got the Jordan secret stuff.
And I can totally see that 100%.
Yeah. We're also splitting hairs a little bit. You said 46 to 49 goals. I'm saying probably 50. So, we're splitting hairs a little bit.
But nonetheless, I mean, good for Edmonton for getting this deal done. I'm curious to see kind of the effect it has on, not necessarily other teams, but mostly within Edmonton now. Like, what's the McDavid deal going to look like? What's the Bouchard deal going to look like?
I have seen people talking, and I want to get your opinion because, in my opinion, there is legitimately a correct answer to this. People are saying hypothetical, right? And they will not allow it to be here. McDavid gets pissed off for whatever reason. He goes to unrestricted free agency in 2 years. How much does he make then?
I think teams are going to offer 18.
The correct answer is 20% of the cap, which is the maximum you're allowed to pay a player.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Yeah.
And not only that, like, you're not only getting the best player in the world in McDavid, but like if you're an owner, you're also looking at it like the jersey sales,
Dollar
the amount of
signs.
season tickets you get and everything. Like, yeah, your team instantly, your sales go up just out of this world. Right. So yeah, you know what? There's probably a team that honestly would do that. Teams would be finding whatever way to ship out bad contracts to open up cap space to take a run at them.
Yeah, like you're not a good GM if you're not even trying to find a way to convince them to get there. Like, yeah, 20% of the cap, the exact maximum amount. Like, there's no way teams are trying to nickel and dime a guy like McDavid, right? Like, unrestricted free agency, like, you don't have to pay anything to get rid of him. You just add him into your lineup. Yeah, you move out whoever you have to.
Yeah.
Just seeing some of the people online being like, oh, if you went to unrestricted free agency, the cap will go up a bit. Draisaitl's making 14. Maybe somebody offers him 15 and a half. And it's like, whatever. Right now, the most you can offer a player is 17.6 mil. That's 20% of the $88 million cap. Yeah, whatever 20% is, some team's going to offer it to him. There's no way that every team said, like, McDavid could reach out to the team he wants to go to and say, hey, offer me this. Like, there's no way every team tells him to pound sand and he goes without a contract.
Yeah. So to wrap this up, I kind of came up with something here just, after talking about Draisaitl and his extension and whatnot. So we're not going to be looking at these from a team perspective, right? Because some of these numbers are different, and especially with like the 8 years, that would tie it down to one singular team, that player's current team. So I'm going to be asking you these, and I'm going to give you a player, and these are all players whose they're going to be UFAs at the end of this season. Okay. And so I'll give you these players. I'm going to give you a reasonable projected contract. And then you're just going to tell me from your perspective, if you were there with that player, would you give this player that deal?
Okay, if that makes sense. This is not at all in the context of a team. This is just, is this player
it's not gonna
worth
be like
that money?
It's not going to be like you're bouncing team. It's going to be like, just if you were the GM and you had the opportunity to sign this player to that deal, would you do it? And these are all players relatively in similar situations. I did add two kind of different ones in there just because I'm very curious to see how you feel about them.
Sure. Are these all 8 years, like, hypothetically, at this
They're not all 8 years. They're not all 8 years.
Okay, some of them have different.
Some of them are, but then there are some of them where it's like, it makes sense. Like, they're probably not getting 8 years.
Okay.
So the first one, this guy will be 28 years old at the end of next season. Brock Besser, 8 years by 8.5 AAV.
He is going to be 28 at that point?
Yeah.
Yeah, I take that. Yeah.
All right. I think I would too.
Yeah.
Next one, Mikko Rantanen. He will be 28 as well. 8 years, 12.25 AAV.
Oh, that's a lot of money.
Crazy thing is, I think that's kind of right around where he probably ends up to, actually.
That's probably where he ends up, especially because he won a cup. Is this
and he's not getting more than
is this me
McKinnon.
Re-signing? Or is this me signing in free agency?
And that's kind of the tough part, right? Is like, because like re-signing, it would have to be re-signing because it's an 8-year deal. Like, it couldn't be just getting him in free agency. So it's just like, if you had the opportunity to sign Rantanen to this deal, like, would you be comfortable giving him a deal like this?
I don't think so. I think that's a lot. He's a really good player, but I don't think he's the line driver. He puts up really nice numbers, but if he's not playing with McKinnon, if he plays with, your regular elite first center, I think his numbers, come down to, 100-ish points and 45 to 50 goals? No, I don't think so.
No. Okay.
If it's a Draisaitl situation, like if it's a he's gonna walk and nothing, then I would sign it. But like if this is like extend me to this now, I would probably say no and then trade him. Honestly,
Okay. Fair enough. Next one,
call me
another
crazy.
guy who'll be 28, Mitch Marner, 8 years, 12 and a half AAV.
Well, that's very interesting because that's a little bit more than Rantanen.
So when I made these, I didn't compare them around the league, like from players from different teams. I kept it within their team, right? And so it's like Ranton, I'm like
Right.
it's not more than McKinnon, but with Marner, it's not more than Matthews, but it's more than Nylander.
Yeah.
And so I kind of went somewhere in the middle.
Yeah. He puts up a lot of points while also being great defensively and, underratedly, he's pretty good in the playoffs.
Yeah, dude, people rag on him, but it's like his numbers actually aren't even that bad.
He's got the best numbers on that Toronto core in the playoffs, which is
Exactly.
crazy. Which is crazy because of how bad he was in those
He's the
first
one who
2
gets
years.
He's the
in
one who
those
always
playoffs.
gets the blame. He's the one who gets shit on the most.
Yeah, because he doesn't. When you watch him, he doesn't play that playoff style, but
it's because he doesn't have the big moments, like with
results.
Nylander on the breakaway, Matthews, Tavares and whatnot. He doesn't have the big moments.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that's kind of where that comes from. But Marner, 8
In
by
a
12 and a
vacuum,
half.
assuming that with his great performances in the playoffs would actually come success, because in this situation I'm making my team and I don't have a Toronto curse, I'm going to say yes. He's really good defensively as well. Like,
yeah,
he plays on every line. He plays
I would.
penalty kill 1, he's playing power play 1, he's playing first line. Yeah.
Yeah. Fair enough. Moving on, the only defenseman we have on this list, he will be 29 years old, Aaron Ekblad. 6-year deal, 8 mil AAV.
Yeah, I take that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This one I'm up in the air about. I went with the 6 years because Aaron Ekblad has it's only 29, but Aaron Ekblad he's been having a hard time staying healthy.
Yeah.
And
so taking that to 37 would be a little rough.
Exactly right. But I think I probably still would, especially, again, after watching him in the playoffs, man. I had such a fun time watching Ekblad in the playoffs.
Dude, I do not like the Panthers, don't get me wrong, but like I swear to God, like I'm an Ekblad truther. People are saying this guy, I still am a firm believer that he's the best defenseman on the team.
Yeah. I mean, NHL.com wouldn't agree with that because they did their top 20 defense and had Gustav Forsling at 6, which I thought was fucking ridiculous. I don't know how you put Forsling above. I mean, I don't like Adam Fox, but like, how do you not have Adam Fox higher than Forsling?
I was gonna say, yeah, I don't like him either, but come on, man.
Like I love Forsling, love the story, but he doesn't sniff the top 15 for me, let alone being 6.
No.
Moving on, Nikolai Ehlers. He'll be 29 as well, just like Ekblad. 7-year deal at 7.5.
That's right about where you want him. I'm going to say no on that one, just because of in Winnipeg, he hasn't been given the tools to succeed as much as he could, and I would need to see that first. Yeah. I would need to see him in a prominent role, and I think he probably would succeed in that role, but until you see it, you can't be handing out the big contracts too much, depending on, because he's been around for a bit and producing pretty good, but not at that level. But, if you, have a guy like Jack Hughes, sign that 8x8 now.
Yeah. Yeah. This is actually a really fun one. This is the oldest guy we have on the list. He will be 33 years old. Brock Nelson, 5-year deal, 7 mil AAV.
Is that 5 years for 7 mil? No. I think
Dude,
he's gonna start falling off. I
dude,
think the first 2 years
would.
are fine,
I
but
would.
I think
I would do it.
year 3, 4, 5 hurt. I think that hurts your team.
Here's the thing, though, does it? Because like you look at Brock Nelson, he's always been an underrated guy, in my opinion,
Oh
up
yeah.
until the 2020-2021 season. So that's when the Islanders had their second battle against Tampa. At that time, Brock Nelson's career high points was in 1920 with 54. So not great. That was also his career high, 26 goals. In the last 3 years, so 3 years ago, 72 games, 37 goals, 59 points, setting a new high in both. The 2022-2023 season played all 82 games, 36 goals, just one under his career high, jumped up to 75 points. And then last year, again, played all 82 games, 34 goals for 69 points. Like, this is a guy that, like, was, like, a solid 20 goal guy, 50-point guy. But then as soon as he hit, like, 30 years old, he's, like, just a brand new player.
Yeah.
So, it's a fun contract because, like, it does take him till he's 38. But I feel like for at least 3 years of that deal, I feel like you're getting good value out of him. But
You had it at
that's why I kind of put it
7
that way.
7 by 5.
5 years, 7 mil AAV.
Yeah.
That's kind of why I put it that way.
I definitely take 3. I definitely take 7 mil for 3 years.
I would even
might
still do 4.
That's real borderline. Honestly, looking at these numbers, I do think I'd probably take 7 by 4. But I think
And then
I
at
think
that
5
point, like
is
the final year doesn't even matter. You've already got your value. But fair enough. That's kind of why I put it that way, because it's you can kind of be on the argument of it for both sides.
Yeah.
Last two. These are the last two. Both goalies. The first one being Linus Ullmark. He will be 31 at the time of signing this deal. If you sign him to it, that is.
Of course.
5-year deal, 9 mil AAV.
9 mil for
So 5-year deal to
Ullmark.
take him up till he's 36 years old. 9 million per year.
Yeah. Yeah, I take
Oh,
that.
you would? Okay.
Yeah.
I was back and forth. I was like, I don't know if I would, but like I kind of want to, but like I'm unsure. But that's interesting that you would.
My gut kind of says no, but like I'm looking at his stats. Man, the 17-18 Buffalo Sabres were not a good team. He put up a 935, 915 on the Sabres, 917 on the Sabres, and then he goes to Boston, which is way better, especially defensively. Still putting up 917. Obviously, the 938 he put up, and then a 915. He
Isn't
can
that
be
crazy how bad?
He can be the starter. He can do a tandem.
Yeah, he can do it all. Isn't that crazy?
That's too many years of consistency to not take it.
Yeah, fair enough. Isn't that crazy though? How bad Buffalo has fumbled goalies. Like, you had Robin Lehner. Yeah, he was doing good for you. You decide you don't like him. He's not worth it. You just banish him from Buffalo. He goes on to do great stuff with the Islanders, a little bit with Vegas before the injuries and whatnot. And then even Ullmark, like, Buffalo has had goalies and that have been good, and they're just like, nah, like, fuck you, you're done.
Apparently, dude, the NHL is just. People say that goalies are the weird ones. No, man, it's people's perception of goalies are bizarre. Like you were saying earlier with the Askarov deal, like we never see high level prospect goalies traded, and like it's because when you trade goalies, you never get your fair share of value. Goalies steal games all the time. Goalies win Conn Smythes. Like they can affect the outcome like no other. And still, like, we knew Linus Ullmark was good when he got traded from the Sabres. What did they get for him? Probably a first and a nothing prospect or something. Like, every time a great goalie gets moved, it's for a very underwhelming trade package. And like, even Ullmark getting traded to
they didn't trade
Sabres.
Ullmark, Buffalo.
Did they just lose him?
They let him walk.
That's bad.
They let him walk.
That's horrendous. Like that's unforgivable for the franchise. But like even Omar getting traded to the Sens for Korpisalo, they're eating that deal. Mark Kastelik and a first rounder.
Yeah.
What? We're 1 year away from a 938 in 49 games. Goal scoring in the league is going up, by the way, with that 938. Like, dude, I swear, the goalie market is fucked. If Edmonton really wants to win next year, they should take their next 2 first rounders and say, "Hey, Rangers, we'll take Shesterkin for these 2 firsts," and they'll probably accept it.
Yeah, it's like they let Allmark go. He won the Jennings, he won the Vezina. They let Lehner go, and he went on to win 2 William M. Jennings. Like, and you lost them both for nothing. But moving on, last one here. I'm curious to see what you think about this one, though. Igor Shesterkin, who will be 29 at the time of signing this deal, an 8-year deal.
8-year deal.
12 mil. No, 11 and a half. Sorry, 11 and a half. I was debating between the two, 11 and a half. So it takes him till he's 37.
I got a gut feeling, but let's bring up his stats.
Whatever
11 and a half for 8 years went from him being
29 up until he's 37.
I don't think so.
No,
he's real good, but 11 and a half. Like we literally haven't seen a goalie sign a contract like that.
Yeah. And that's kind of why I was like, you know what? I think that's one of those ones where a lot of people be like, yeah, but I think there's people on the side of no. What I will say is I'm very proud.
I'm also a bit of a Shesterkin hater.
I'll
admit it. My Russian goalie's better. I think you take him at 8/10. I'm trying to figure out where that cutoff is. I think it's between 10 and a half and 11. I think I'd probably still take him at 10 and a half, but when it hits that 11 mark, it gets dicey.
Mm-hmm. I will say, above all else, I'm proud of how I did this because I gave you 8. You would have agreed to terms with 4 of them, and you would have rejected 4 of them. So split down the middle, and I think that's fantastic right there.
Oh, hell yeah. Look at that. That's pretty good.
But I do believe that does have everything wrapped up for this one here.
Yeah. Looks like that's about everything we got.
Awesome. Well, that does wrap up another episode of the Stick 'em Up podcast. We are back full time now. We did kind of have our off-season little break, but we are back full time now. You're probably waiting for me to just slap you at the usual for all of our socials. We don't have to anymore. If you are on any mobile device now, you go into the description for this episode. All of the links will be right there. You can just click them, and they're going to take you straight to our social pages. So you don't have to listen to me yap about them all the time. Now at the end of every episode, we can just do a clean wrap up here, and then everything is right there at your fingertips if you would like to talk hockey with us.
Nice. Look at that.
Quick and easy. We are evolving here. This is why we had that small little break, because we are back now. We are energized. We are ready to wrap up. I think we're actually right at the halfway point, if I'm not mistaken, for our off-season review. So we have the back half coming up here. You will be catching the Montreal-Detroit off-season review tomorrow. If you're listening to this on the day it was released, the following day you will have the next episode of the off-season reviews. We will continue on with that, and then like right at that timeline when we're finished up with those, we're getting into training camp, we're getting into preseason, we're getting into the flow of almost back to the regular season. We are about a month away, so we're getting there.
We've entered into September, and people we're getting that, like a lot of people talking about hockey again, and people talk about upcoming preseason stuff. It's picking back up again, and thank God, man. Jeez.
Yeah, right. Like we got a lot of fun stuff we're going to be able to do, leading up to the regular season and whatnot, and just can't wait to get this ball rolling again now.
Yep. Yeah, we're gonna be doing it, and we're gonna be cranking out a bunch of those reviews until the start of the preseason. So stay tuned for that. And if you haven't listened to our other ones, go back and check them out. Because especially if there's any teams in particular you want to listen to our thoughts on, because a lot of those are pretty good.
Yeah, we've gone in depth with every team. We still got lots to do. And again, reach out on any of the socials there. You can just tap on it and you can send us a message. If we haven't covered your team yet and you want to hear it sooner, you're just you want to know how we feel about them, let us know. And it'll be one of the teams we do next. So once again, we do thank everybody for tuning in. We hope you guys enjoyed this one, and we will see you guys in the next one.